Hi everybody, good morning or good afternoon. My name is Katja Wirth. I'm the national contact person for the ERC in Switzerland. I'm working with Euresearch. We welcome all of you to our webinar, Do Research in Switzerland. So the objective of this webinar is to provide you with information on two specific funding instruments that would allow you to come to Europe or even to Switzerland and to carry out your research in Switzerland or Europe. It is the ERC grants and the Marie Curie program. Both are within the 7th framework program of the European Union. So let me start with the ERC grants. I will focus on two specific grants, the starting grant and the consolidator grant. The principles of the ERC grants are to stimulate excellence in basic research in Switzerland, in Europe. The grants are designed for individual researchers. So the ERC is a kind of It's comparable with a national funding agency, but on a European level. The topics are open to all fields of science. There are no predefined topics. The only evaluation criterion is excellence. At the time when you submit your proposal, you can be in any country of the world, but for your ERC project, you must be in an EU member state or in an associated country, such as Switzerland. Switzerland is an associated country to the 7th framework program. When you submit your ERC proposal, you need to be in contact with the host institution, with your future host institution. You need to have a signed letter from them that says that they support you for the duration of the ERC project. So get in contact early with your future host institution. The ERC grants are flexible. They are under your control. This means that you can move with your grant. For example, if you get a professorship in another European country, you can move together with your grant as long as you stay in Europe. You can budget all what you need. 100% of your costs are paid back. Let me come now to the starting grant. The starting grant is a grant for researchers at the very beginning of their career, 2 to 7 years after the PhD. It's the support to get independent, to build up the first team. But you need to have a very high level. The competition is very high. You can get up to 2 million euro for a duration of up to 5 years. Some details on the consolidator grant. To all of you who are a little bit familiar with the ERC grant, the consolidator grant is new. We only had the starting grant, and the starting grant is now split up into separate calls, separate grants, the starting grant and the consolidator grant. The consolidator grant is designed for researchers who are between 7 and 12 years after the PhD. It is a support at the first consolidation phase of the own research team and research program. You need to have quite a high level of achievements. You can get up to 2.75 million euros, again for a duration of up to 5 years. So all in all, the starting grant and the consolidator grants are very similar. The main difference is really the level of achievements and the time window in your career. If you are not sure if you fit in one of these two grants, then reflect if you are among the 10 to 20% best researchers in Europe in your domain and at your current career step. and have a look at the database by clicking on this link that you can see here below. This is a database with all funded ERC projects. You have to select the FP7 Ideas program and then the starting grant. And then you can select your domain. And then you find a summary of all funded projects. And then, of course, you can Google the candidates and compare yourself with them. When do we have the next calls? The next starting grant call will be published on the 10th of July, so this summer. The deadline will probably be on the 17th of October. The first call publication of the consolidator grant will probably be on the 7th of November, with a deadline of 21st of February next year. These dates are not confirmed, they may be changed. And to those of you who are already familiar with the starting grants, note that there is not anymore 3 deadlines for the 3 main domains. It's only 1 deadline per call. Note that in 2013 there will be no call because this will be the last year of the 7th framework program. In 2014, the next framework program will start. It is called Horizon 2020. In Horizon 2020, the ERC will continue, so we will have again calls for the ERC, but we don't know the schedule yet. You can also read here the success rates of the ERC. They normally are between 12 and 15%, so you see that the competition is very high. The success rates used to be much higher for Switzerland. They are up to 30 or even more %. So if you think that you are in the target of the ERC, try to apply. If you plan to submit an ERC proposal, I recommend you to go on the Euresearch website and to register with Euresearch. Then you get informed, you will be kept informed. You get e-alerts and also register for our newsletter, and then you will get the monthly newsletter. We have some important documents and events specifically for the ERC. So I recommend you to click on the link that I provide here, and then you will come on this website. Then click again on the documents and website link, and you will be on this site. Here you will find many interesting documents, such as the guide for applicants or checklists or writing guides. So this site will be updated as soon as the starting grant will be published. Moreover, I recommend you to go on the ERC website. There you will find important information, for example, on the evaluation panels, and so on. Also, we have a FAQ site, it's the Swiss ERC blog, and also we have specific events for ERC candidates. Visit also our event site. This was just kind of appetizer on the ERC. If you have questions, do not hesitate to contact either Judith Spinden or me. We both are responsible for the ERC in Switzerland. Do not hesitate to contact us. For the moment, I thank you for your attention. Before we continue with our next speaker, I would like to tell you to ask your questions on the question and answer panel that you can see on the right side of your screen. Type your questions there, and we will answer all your questions at the very end of the webinar. It's in about 40 minutes. We continue now with Oliver Heire, who is a starting grant winner of 2009. He is an assistant professor of University of Bern. Thank you, Oliver, for being with us.
Well, thank you very much for this introduction, and greetings to everyone who's listening in to this webinar. I've been asked to provide a bit of information about my experiences with the ERC grant, and I thought maybe at the beginning it would be best to just give you a bit of an introduction to my research career, mainly to show you at which stage of my career I was in when I applied for a starting grant. So I studied biology. I finished my studies in 1997. I then did my PhD. I then moved abroad. I had a research position, fellowship in Norway for 1 year, and then moved to the Netherlands for 8 years. And it was during this period that I applied for an ERC starting grant. I was invited to become associate editor in 2008, so just before applying for the research grant. I was slowly being recognized by my peers in my field of research, but I was still more or less at the postdoctoral level. I then received my ERC starting grant in 2009, and then the following year moved to the University of Bern, where I've been a lecturer. A few weeks, also an assistant professor. So you will see that I received this ERC starting grant in a very important stage of my research career. I was becoming more independent, I was becoming recognized in my research field, but I was still very dependent on other researchers at that stage, and the ERC starting grant actually helped me to become more independent, which is an important aim of these grants. Well, what can these ERC starting grants do for you? What I can do is I can give you this very personal view of someone who's actually received this sort of support. I think as a researcher, a very important issue is the financial support that you receive. As you've just heard, it's quite substantial. In my case, it allows me to finance my own salary for 5 years and an entire small research group of 3 PhD students and 1 postdoctoral researcher. I think something which should not be underestimated is that these ERC grants are also associated with prestige and recognition, certainly in Europe. The competition is quite, fierce is perhaps the wrong word, but it's really very competitive to obtain one of these grants. But as a consequence of that, you're also recognized if you get one. One thing which I really like about these grants is that you're actually in a relatively strong legal situation. We've just heard about the mobility of these grants. This means that if you receive a grant at one university and you obtain the opportunity to move to another one within Europe or its associated member states, associated states, this actually will be possible. Your research proposal will also form part of your contract with your host institution. It also strengthens your position because you can actually demonstrate that you need to get the resource to actually fulfill the aims of your research application at your host institution. Then finally, there are some additional points which are explicitly stated in the contracts between the ERC and the host institution. For example, you're explicitly given the right to choose your own co-authors on your publications. This may seem normal, but it's still very nice to really have this explicit legal support. The nicest thing about these grants, I think, is that you have the full academic freedom to implement the research the way you think is best within the boundaries set by the research application. And these grants are actually quite flexible as well. You can respond to new situations which may occur because you get the first data within your research application, research project, and you can actually change your research strategy to some extent. Okay, so a bit more, an even more personal perspective. So what were the benefits in my case of receiving this ERC starting independent researcher grant? I think one very important thing for me was that I received the right to independently supervise students without any other senior scientist being involved. So now I can see students and so forth exclusively under my own name. I've also been invited to hold invited presentations and keynote lectures at congresses as a consequence of receiving this grant, which is an important boost to my research career. And I've been invited to join boards of scientific organizations, including, for example, the Swiss Society for Quaternary Research, a cost action project, that's a European networking project would probably be the best words to describe it. And the Young Academia Europea, which is an organization of young researchers, a similar age group as I am now. So those invitations were also very helpful to my research career. So what are the main things I think are important to remember about the ERC grants? I think one thing has already been mentioned. You really ask to submit proposals which are innovative. And I think the commission which will evaluate you will really look at this aspect very closely. So words which are being used are often groundbreaking or pioneering. They really want to see new ideas or new approaches. One thing I noted was that the evaluation of my research proposal was really very rigorous. It was really a very detailed evaluation, and I think it was really a very good evaluation. I was actually quite happy about this because I had the feeling that people were looking very closely at what I... One thing to remember for those of you who are maybe more at the postdoctoral level and have much information about these ERC grants before, is that not only your research is evaluated, but also you yourself are evaluated as a candidate, and the structure of your proposed research group is evaluated. And I think it's maybe useful to think about how you can emphasize that you are someone who's suited for this kind of research, and how you can emphasize that you thought about how your research group is going to look. And again, excellence of ideas, of research, and of you as the candidate. That is the main criterion the ERC tells us that they will use in their evaluation, and I really got the feeling that that was the main thing I was evaluated for. Now, why Switzerland? Probably some of you are thinking of maybe applying to come to Switzerland. Based on my experiences in other European countries and discussions with colleagues who work in other countries, I think there are some advantages to Switzerland. One thing I really noted is that the research infrastructure here is very good. And with this, I don't just mean the machinery, the analysis, but also, for example, administrative support and library services and so forth. So it's a good place to do research. I think Switzerland has a relatively good funding situation. With this, I don't mean that it's easy to get money that's just lying around. But if there are good projects, if they're excellent projects, I think they have a very good chance of getting funded. This is different than in some countries where the funding situation has become so stressed that actually does not seem to be enough money for all the excellent projects. So I think this is really a big advantage of Switzerland still, and hopefully in the future. Then the research environment is very international. There are many foreigners working in Switzerland in the research environment, and this is obviously helpful if you come with an international background yourself. Young researchers are expected to be independent. Of course, this puts some pressure on you, but the nice thing is also that you can really become independent here. And then there are other advantages like competitive salaries, and I personally think the country is very nice, but I may be biased because I'm Swiss myself. Okay, with the few minutes which I have left, I thought I would just give you a brief glimpse into the presentation I showed during my interview when I was invited to speak before the evaluation panel in Brussels. The main problem was I had to boil down the key message of my proposal into 5 minutes. I only have 5 minutes to present. The mission was very interdisciplinary, so there were very different people in there. Carefully about how I would do this. I figured obviously I should introduce myself very briefly. I tried to do this with one single slide, which just kind of marked the highlights of my research career, I felt at that point. Also gives you maybe an overview of stood at that point in my career. Then the next important issue I felt was I would have to make a point that my research was relevant. I wanted to do research about methane, a greenhouse gas. I had highlighted that this is an important research question. We don't need to go into detail here. And then I talked about the aims of my project, which was to develop a new approach for reconstructing past methane output from lakes. And the second research aim was to apply this new approach to test hypotheses on how methane from lakes responds to change. I felt that this was important to just briefly summarize in one slide what the whole project was about. Then I moved on to a few slides which were really technical. I will not spend a lot of time here, but a point I want to make is that of those, I don't know how many slides, 8 or so or 10 that I showed, only 2 were really about my research or the details of my research, because I felt the commission, maybe because they were not all specialists in my field of research, this was not as relevant for them because they had reviews of specialists in the field to base their three slides then about technical issues, and at the very end I just felt I wanted to give the commission an overview over the structure, planned research, and of my proposal. That was it, 5 minutes to present my research was what I was provided with. Okay, so all the way at the end of my presentation, just a few bit of personal advice. This is really a very personal view on these ERC grants from my side. I recommend you to read the guidelines for applications very carefully. The selection criteria for the grants are clearly outlined, and they are different than in some of the grant applications you may be using. Then the commission is interdisciplinary. I mean, all of them in my field were specialists in the field of physical sciences or environmental science. However, not all of them knew what I was dealing with. So I tried to choose a way to present my research in words which the non-specialists could also understand. The key message of my grant application I tried to boil down to 2 or 3. Then I really felt the evaluation was extremely good, extremely rigorous. I was very happy that I was very honest about the problems in my research. And the commission actually accepted those problems. So I also had a strategy how to deal with them if they became serious. And then I recommend you to listen to advice of different people if you write such an application. But I also recommend you to choose your own solution to presenting your research and your project. The commission is willing to listen to unusual approaches, I think. I had the feeling. And this is, of course, only my experience, and I'm one person, and I was in one panel, so don't forget that you may actually end up in a may make maybe different experiences. Okay, so those were a few slides from my side, and listening, and I think we move on.
Very warm welcome from my side as well. My name is Judith Spenden, and I'm currently the Swiss National Contact Person for the Marie Curie Actions. I'm replacing our colleague Juliane Sauer, who is currently on maternity leave. So in the next part, or in the second part of this webinar, we're going to give you a brief overview over the Marie Curie Actions, and particularly on the International Incoming Fellowship, because this is the scheme within the Marie Curie Actions which allows researchers currently active overseas, so outside of Europe, to come to Europe to perform their research project. Let's start with some basic features of Marie Curie Actions, and in particular the International Incoming Fellowships, also abbreviated as IIF. First of all, as we heard with the ERC, you can work on any research topic you want to. In EC jargon, this is called a bottom-up approach. Also, nationality doesn't matter. The crucial thing here is that you have been active in a country outside Europe, for example, in one of the Asian countries, and want to come to Europe with your Marie Curie grant. Age also is not important. What counts is your research age. To be eligible for such a Marie Curie fellowship, you must either hold a PhD or have at least 4 years of full-time research experience after your master's degree. This is the criteria which for Marie Curie, you will be an experienced researcher. So this is the formal rules. However, usually people are in at least their second postdoc when they successfully apply for a Marie Curie fellowship, and especially for the incoming fellowship, where the focus is very much also on transfer knowledge from a third country to Europe. We see that researchers who are successful getting these grants are usually more advanced than just having finished their PhD. Another cornerstone of Marie Curie actions is the mobility rule. Now, the mobility rule says that in the 3 years prior to the submission deadline for proposals, you cannot have lived or worked or both for more than 12 months in the country where you want to perform your Marie Curie project. So it's really about transnational mobility, about moving to another country, moving to Europe. Now, what can you get with such an international incoming fellowship? Basically, it's a postdoc project that will be funded of a duration between 1 and 2 years. And obviously, most people will apply for the 2-year scheme. Funding-wise, there is different, the funding is composed of different parts. The main important issue is the living allowance you will get. Currently, this is nearly 60,000 euro per year. Plus, you get a mobility allowance, which depends on your family status. It's between 8,400 and 12,000 euro per year additionally. The important thing is that the living as well as the mobility allowance have to be multiplied by the so-called country correction coefficient. For Switzerland, and this correction coefficient takes into account the living costs in the different European countries, which obviously differ quite a lot. For Switzerland, in the open call, this correction coefficient is around 110%, and in the upcoming call in 2013, it will be even a bit higher. But even more important to consider is that these figures are your gross salary. So any taxes, any social charges from the employer, but also from the employee sides, will be deduced from these amounts. So this is basically your salary. The host institution will also get a contribution towards the research costs and the administrative costs of hosting you with your Marie Curie grant. This slide shows you the 5 main parts of your incoming fellowship proposal, which are at the same time also the evaluation criteria for the international incoming fellowship. And the size of the cake slice represents the weight that each of these criteria has in the overall evaluation. What becomes obvious straight away is that the first criterion, the science and technology criterion, only makes up about 25% of the whole evaluation. So it is of course crucial, but it is also crucial that you dedicate enough time and effort to the other 4 parts of your proposal, namely the part on transfer of knowledge, description of you as a researcher, how you're going to implement your project, and the impact it has on your career and on the European research area, etc. In the slices of the pie chart, you also see the maximum page numbers indicated, and you see that they add up to about 27 pages. So that's about the maximum size of your proposal. Now, what are the opportunities to apply for such an incoming fellowship? We currently have a call open. It opened in March, so all the documents are available and the system to submit proposals is open. This call will close, the deadline will be on the 16th of August 2012 at 5 o'clock Brussels time, very strictly. Another few cornerstones, if you decide to apply for this open call, which there's still plenty of time to prepare yourself, you should expect that the earliest starting point of your Marie Curie project will probably be around March 2013 and latest March 2014. The important thing is also, if you apply for this year's call, you will be eligible and for some reason don't receive the grant, you will also be eligible to try again in 2013. There will be the last call in FP7 for Marie Curie fellowships will be published about in a year, so around in spring 2013. Again, we expect with a deadline in summer. The success rate of the international incoming fellowship was around 16% globally last year. Again, a little higher for people coming to Switzerland. So it is a competitive scheme, but there is still good chances to get the funding if you really fit into the requirements, and especially if you prepare yourself well. The first step in a good preparation is certainly to choose a matching host institution, for example in Switzerland or in another European or associated country. And also do your reading, get the necessary documents, the work program, and especially the relevant guide for applicants. And on the link here on the slide, which you will be sent, you find the link to the participant portal where you find all these important documents. In the next few slides, I'm going to present you some websites which can serve as further resources to find out more about the Marie Curie actions. First of all, there is a really good website on Marie Curie, on the Europa website, with a lot of documents and explanations. Then there is Euresearch. Euresearch is a service network for researchers moving to and from another country. So it's not only targeted to Marie Curie fellows, but also what is really interesting here, it has a whole section on jobs, and there you can find jobs, for example, postdoc positions in already funded EU projects. So there you don't need to apply for funding directly at the European Commission, but you will apply to organizations who already received this funding. Another interesting resource could be a Marie Curie blog that we established here in Switzerland and are sharing with our European colleagues. This basically is an FAQ collection where you can find hopefully your most pressing remaining questions on the IIF, for example, covered already. Euresearch is a network. We have the head office here in Bern, and we have regional offices at all the Swiss universities. Moreover, we have tight links to Swisscore, the Swiss liaison office in Brussels. Euresearch supports researchers interested to apply for EU research and innovation funding during all stages of proposal preparation, but also during grant negotiation and project implementation. And lastly, here are our contact details. Please be aware that we can only provide support for those researchers intending to come to Switzerland with their, for example, Marie Curie grants. If you're interested now to come to Europe but not to Switzerland with such a Marie Curie fellowship, you can find in the link provided on the Cordis website the contact details of our colleagues in all the other European countries. With that, I would like to thank you for your attention, and it is my great pleasure, or our great pleasure, to have Kyoshi Kusuma with us today. He is an international incoming fellow holder. He's based at the University of Bern. He moved from Japan to Bern with such a Marie Curie fellowship, and he will now present some of his first-hand experiences moving with such a funding scheme to Switzerland.
Thank you for the introduction, and hello to everyone. My name is Kyoshi Kusuma. I'm originally from Japan, and I've been working in University of Bern, Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry for 1 year now. And I'm basically a surface scientist or electrochemist in the chemistry department, and I'd like to share my experience with you during this 1 year staying in Switzerland. But just basically what I feel for this Marie Curie project is that this Marie Curie project, IIF, gives you the chance or opportunity to carry out your own research by your own self, and finally it is for your future career, which is very important. And this is a very big step for becoming independent in the future. And so I put here that it provides us some responsibility, because you have to do your research and you have to get your idea by yourself, but also it is rewarding and also satisfying. And at the same time, it is very important to point out that this Marie Curie project enables you to concentrate on your work dominantly. So basically what you this is all necessary steps that you become independent in the future. So yes, there are some questions, or maybe some questions from audience, that the reason, for instance, the reason why I decide to apply for the Marie Curie grant. For instance, I have two clear reasons that this project, as I mentioned, gives you the opportunity to do individual research project. So it is your own idea and your own method, and by yourself and under your responsibility. And this is really sometimes difficult to do in some countries, especially in Japan. But it is very important to do this and experience this in my scientific career in the future. And because Marie Curie, this project will provide lots of not only the financial support, but also in working in Switzerland, for instance, you can have lots of not only facilities, but lots of human network. In Switzerland, we have lots of good university and institute, and it means a good scientists near around. So and many people are keen to discuss with many young researchers, and that makes you a good network with other good peoples. And so it opens up lots of possibility for my research career. And also what I feel is that it's very important to work outside our own country, in my case Japan, and work in a different environment, because that will open up your eyes in a different situation, culture, and lots of things, background, to become more, how do you say, open mind to any kind of situation. And also this also help to make a good network with other peoples in EU, especially in Switzerland. And actually this next question, that why I chose Switzerland, comes to the same point, that this, for instance, University of Bern, in chemistry department and on all other department, they have huge facilities available for everyone, and also there's lots of people who you can discuss with for free. I mean, and if you're interested, you can find many people whom you can discuss with. And my personal reason that I chose Switzerland is, I think it's most of the case in science, I think this is the case, but I chose because of the research group in Bern, also the research topic in the groups. But I found that it's very, very nice place, especially in Bern University, because we have in chemistry department, for instance, we have many chemists who is working very actively in science, and we are all very keen to share our knowledge and their expertise with all of the groups and all of the department, which makes me very happy to work with them, and lots of possibilities now open to me. And not only scientific part, but as non-scientific part, Switzerland is a very, very beautiful country with great natures. And also it's not only nature, but also the society is very well organized, and everything is perfectly working. And also it's very safe country, so it's very nice to live in with, especially with your family, for instance. And it's this actually, the stability in my personal life makes it more easier to concentrate on the research. So these are some of the reasons why I choose to move to Switzerland. And when it comes to writing the proposal, I think this is really important to focus on this part, because this is, as many people mentioned already, but this is very competitive proposal project, and it's not that easy to get one. But in my case, I spent more than 1 month, nearly 2 months, to focus only on proposal. Because this proposal is not just a normal or proposal, but this is very special one. It is very important to make myself very clear in the beginning, because if I'm not clear, then it's very difficult to explain or convince referees for this proposal. So first, I think it's very important to point out what really I want to do, and why and how, and then later you make the structure of the plan with very clear manner. So for example, first we need to have clear questions or purpose or aim of the project, why. Then we formulate the plan for this question or aim, what kind of research we can do, and then not only plan, but we have to make a strategy very clear. So why, how to deal with these questions, how to solve the problem, and make clear structure of strategies. Then each strategy will bring you to break down to the single experiment, more practical experimental plan, and ABC, to clarify that you are not just a person, candidate, who are just thinking, but you are thinking very deeply, even to the experimental process, so that the plan itself become more convincing. And the referee will think that your proposal is not just a dreaming plan, but also it's very practical, and also it's something that is feasible. And these are all clear structured, have to be started from the clear plan, clear questions. What you want to do. In my case, I'm in electrochemistry, and so I wanted to make clear kind of producing catalyst for the fuel cell, which provide a new type of energy generations. But this is very general. But yeah, I have to go in detail to make it very clear my research plan. And it is as it was already explained before, that it has several different evaluation criteria, and it is not only science and technology quality, but it has different type which also will be evaluated. And so you have to make this plan not only about science, but also the other part, like what you can transfer your knowledge from your country to EU or Switzerland in this case. And also it is evaluated by the researcher himself or herself, and also some other factor, implementation and the impact. And this, all of them will be evaluated. So you cannot just put your own focus on science and technology, but you also have to think about it. And actually, this is my personal experience, but it is very important to put very clear figures which explain, which tells all your stories in a very clear manner, so that you just not put figures because of space or just to explain, but it need to be self-explained. So the referee first see the figures, and then they will think, okay, what is this proposal for? Then it open their mind, and then it's very well, this is maybe a very general comment, but it's very important to have good, clear figures. So in my case, I personally recommend to make this plan and also figure first, then the detail will come later. And also, you cannot tell that you want to have a time machine, for instance. You have to be very realistic, and this is also the point that will be judged, evaluated later. But this evaluation criteria you can find in the manual, I think, but it is very clearly mentioned there. So you have to answer all of them, and it means that you cannot just leave something out. You have to answer everything, and everything will be evaluated. And this is very important. And also what I felt is that it will be evaluated by people who is not only in my profession, but also people from other scientific fields. So it's better to ask some other people who is not in your field to read your proposal, so that they can find out the structure of your proposal, if it is good or not. And this is this kind of the review will be very important before you submit it. Yes. And actually, why my project has been evaluated positively. I'm not so sure about these questions, but what I have got, I mean, every candidate will receive the evaluation sheet after your submission, maybe in December or January. In there it describes very detailed what is evaluated, how it was evaluated, strong and weak point. And in my case, it was positively evaluated because I see this evaluation criteria and fill all requirements that in a clear manner. And as I mentioned, that each criteria has equally distributed points, so every part must be strong enough to convince these referees. I try to make in this way. Maybe that's one of the reasons that it was positively evaluated. But yes, I mean, yes. And what I would like to do after this, actually, I am not so sure where I will go, but of course, I definitely want to continue my research activities, especially and after Marie Curie experience. to be independent and work in this field. And actually, I haven't emphasized one very important point about this working in Switzerland. And Switzerland has as I mentioned, it has a very good university and institute like ETH or EPFL or EMPA, something, this institute, and there are many people, and we can easily get contact with them because we have lots of seminars and this shared symposiums and many places. And in University of Bern, located in the middle of Switzerland, so we can just travel in 1 hour and then discuss them, and they come back daily. That helps to make a strong people network, and this will be very, very important because you cannot solve all your problem yourself alone, but this help will be very, very important. Also, Switzerland is in the middle of European countries, so that it is also not that difficult to make this kind of connection with other countries near around. And this is what I felt actually. I only did 1 year in this Marie Curie, but I had chance to attend some conference and meetings and even a small symposium, but people are very much active in this field. And yeah, for me it's very I appreciate for this situation, working in Switzerland and making this people network. And this, I hope I will continue this situation in the future after Marie Curie project, but we will see. Anyway, we are very much happy to receive your questions, and I would like to thanks for your attentions, and like to move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Véronique Sornet. I will animate the question and answer session. We will start with the ERC question. So first of all, I would like to repeat that you can ask a question in the question and answer panel. And the second thing is that all the presentation we will send to you via email after the webinar. So let's start with the ERC question. Katja, can excellent researcher for Japan apply for an ERC grant? Can they get support for the application procedure?
Yes, you can. It's no matter where you are at the moment, where you live, where you work, and what your nationality is. If you are Chinese or Japanese or Indian or US American, whatever, you can apply for an ERC grant, starting grant, consolidated grant, all ERC grants. And yes, you can get our support. When you decide to come to Switzerland, if you're interested to move to Switzerland, then your first step would be to contact Euresearch, and in the same time also to look for a future research institute. It would be your responsibility to contact your researchers with whom you wish to work together in Switzerland. But also, every university in Switzerland has a Euresearch office. We have a head office in Bern, where I am located, and we have regional offices at every university and ETH in Switzerland. So if you plan, for example, to move to ETH Zurich, you can contact both me and also Euresearch in Zurich, and that will help you with internal procedure. For example, that will help you to get the support letter from ETH Zurich, and it will also help you with setting up your budget, for example. So just feel free to contact us if you plan to come to Switzerland with an ERC grant.
Thank you, Katja. Is there opportunity for the glass material research for photonic or energy application?
Actually, I don't know the every specialty in Switzerland. It is up to you to make contacts in Switzerland. It's up to you to check if there are centers of excellence, if there are professors, institutes who support you and who are specialists in your research and who welcome you. Not every university is open to new stuff, for example. If they don't have place, if they don't have open positions, they are not ready to get you, to have you at their institute. So this is up to you. This is your responsibility to check with your dream university, to check if they can have you, if they support your candidature. It will be Euresearch who helps you with setting up your proposal and getting the support, signature budget things like that. But for the research part, it's your responsibility.
Thank you very much, Katja. We have now some questions for the Marie Curie. Participant is interested on the Marie Curie fellowship. Can Euresearch help him or her to find a host organization?
Unfortunately, the answer here is clearly no, and it goes in the same direction what Katja Wirth has said for the question to the ERC before, that Euresearch can help you with setting up the proposal, with administrative issues, etc. Once you have identified and your host institution, your supervisor, your mentor, and the university, and they are happy to host you. So this is really the stage where your research can step in. Finding somebody in your research field that is happy to work with you, this is really your responsibility, where unfortunately we cannot help you.
Thank you. Are there positions for fresh PhD?
There most certainly is. I have presented one website, the Euresearch website. You will get all the slides sent to you, so you can just find the link there. And there is a section there on jobs, and most likely there is open positions there published for PhD positions. There is another funding scheme within Marie Curie that is called Initial Training Networks, and as the name says, these are mainly PhD programs. So this is institutions that apply for EU money to then set up PhD programs, and they're obliged to publish their open PhD positions on this specific Euresearch portal, amongst others. So go and check if there is something open in your field.
And is it necessary to learn French or German before going to Switzerland?
I would say no, because Switzerland is a very international country. In terms of general inhabitants, it's very international, and especially in the universities, we have around 70 to 80% of the researchers who come from abroad, and many of them only speak English. It is of great help if you learn French or German, of course, but there's no need.
If you want to have a nice beer in the local bar, you need to learn some German or French, but scientifically speaking, only English is enough.
Thank you. Can Euresearch help me to find a host organization for the IEF, which is the scheme to move within Europe?
Well, this question again relates to finding a research group, finding a host organization, and again the answer unfortunately is no. We can start advising you, helping you once you have identified the group you're going to work with that will host you. This is really the step where your research support kicks in.
And we have the same question for ERC. Can Euresearch help me to find a host organization for ERC starting grant? Again, the answer here is no. Euresearch, again, supports you in every step of the application and also of the grant management afterwards, but not in the scientific field. For example, we would also pre-screen your proposal. Once you have finished your proposal, we can pre-screen it, but again, it's more on the administrative level, and
It's not the content of your research. Everything that regards the content of your research, it's your specialty. We are not specialists. We are staff of 25 people supporting you in every step of your application and afterwards. But we are not specialists of your field. You are the specialist. You are the expert. So use your network. Any good researcher needs to have a global network anyway. So if you are on the level of an ERC grant, then you should have an international network with the best researchers around the world anyway. And then you can go through your network, which will help you to find a very good host institution in Switzerland or anywhere in Europe.
Thank you, Katja. And as a researcher coming from Asia, I may have a family. Are there support provided for the family?
Yes and no. It's not the ERC that would specifically support this family, because what you would do when you apply for an ERC, you apply together with the host institution, and then you set up a budget that is in line with the rules of this host institution. So it is the host institution, for example, who would decide on your salary. You would get, for example, if it is ETH Zurich, you would then get the salary and the position of an assistant professor. And this is a very generous salary, so there's no need to get special support for your family. This would be an extremely generous salary that you could easily live with your family, with kids. And every university in Europe has its own rule at what position they give to an ERC grant holder. So you have to check with your university. In Switzerland, it's normally with an ERC starting grant, you normally get assistant professorship. And this means that you have a generous support from the university and you have a very generous salary, that it's easy to live with a family.
Thank you very much, Katja. We will take the last question. This is going to be for Judith. Can I apply for a Marie Curie IIF in subsequent 2 years? For instance, if I fail in the first attempt, can I do it again in the immediate following year?
Yes, the answer is yes. Here you can always resubmit your proposal in the following call. There is no restrictions there.
Thank you very much, Judith. We will stay during 10 more minutes to answer your question via the chat directly. I will close now the seminar. I would like to thank you, everybody, for your participation, and we will be able to send you the presentation today via email. If you have other questions, please do not hesitate to contact Euresearch. Thank you very much, and have a good day or evening.